Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast. I'm Katie Wrigley, neuroscience coach and entrepreneur. This podcast is for high-performing leaders who look capable on the outside, but know the pressure of carrying too much alone. Each week, we explore the internal and external systems that create real ease, from nervous system regulation to delegation and smarter support. If you're ready to build in a way that feels steady and sustainable, you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Catapult Effect podcast. I am so excited for today's episode. We are going to be talking about boundaries and how important they are. And I have with me a really, really cool guest. Her name is Barb Nangle, and she is a boundaries coach, a speaker, an author, and a podcast host. At age 52, Barb Nangle's life transformed through 12-step recovery after decades of therapy merely skimmed the surface. That really resonates, Barb. Addressing codependence unlocked healing from intergenerational trauma, childhood wounds, and compulsive overeating. Learning to build healthy boundaries revolutionized her relationships, impacting her professional life at Yale. Formally masking her struggles with substance abuse and overeating, she shed over 100 pounds and confronted her deep-seated negativity and fear. Driven by a desire for growth and social justice, Barb now empowers professional women to break patterns of self-neglect. Through boundary coaching, speaking, and her podcast, Fragmented to Whole, she guides women to build internal safety, reclaim their power, and say no to what no longer serves them, fostering a world where inner change drives societal impact. Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast, Barb.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to dive
you.
in.
Thank you. Me too. This is going to be a great conversation. I know it.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to start out with what is the importance of boundaries?
So boundaries are really about your identity.
Mhm.
Like, where do I end and other people begin? I didn't know what I wanted, liked, needed, and preferred
Mhm.
because I was so accommodating to other people. I used to think of myself as a chameleon, like I can fit in anywhere. And here's the thing. No, you can't.
Mm.
You're like your actual self can't. Maybe you can appear to fit in everywhere, but you don't feel authentically you when you're fitting in everywhere. Sort of one way that I thought about it, Katie, was like there were parts of a lot of Barb that was up for negotiation. So one example, no, you mentioned my substance use in there. When I started drinking, I drank beer because that's what everybody drank at 16. Then I met a guy who was a wine connoisseur. And I started dating him. So then I got into wine. And then I dated a guy who drank Jack Daniels. So I drank Jack Daniels and Diet Coke. And then I met a guy who was a beer connoisseur. And I learned that I liked Belgian wheat beers. So I didn't even have my own damn drink.
Wow.
I have been a football fan of 4 different teams over time. I don't give a shit about football. Right. So, like, those are examples. Like, I didn't even know what I liked. And I finally am like, I don't care about football. I just felt like this is what it means to be a good girlfriend.
You are like coming out of the gate so good, so strong. Like, I love that reframe that it is where we end and the next person begins. And thank you for sharing that because and let me know if this resonates for you. Like, did you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm just trying this because they introduced me to it?
I don't even think I had any cognitive
Mm.
understanding. I just did it. Don't remember making decisions. I just sort of knew. You meld yourself into your surroundings because that's what I learned. And, I think of boundaries, like, I don't know if people will see this or not, but I think of boundaries as I determined what's the shape of bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like what for those who can't see visually, I'm sort of pull my hands around the outline of Barb. Like I've determined the boundaries. Where does Barb end and other people begin? And so I think of boundaries are their standards that I have for my life, and therefore I have limits that I set to uphold those standards. So some of those limits are for most of those limits are actually for me, frankly, and then some of them for other people. So just a basic example that most people can understand is, you mentioned like all the crap I did to myself. So now health is a really important boundary for me. So just one example of a limit I have for myself to uphold and support and promote my health is that I go to bed by 10:30 at night rather than staying up all night reading or scrolling social media or watching whatever TV or whatever. But I didn't start by going, okay, I'm going to bed at 10:30. I started with midnight and I got used to that. And then 11:30, then 11, then 10:30. And then it was, I'm going to read for pleasure before I go to bed rather than play a video game or do social media or whatever. So, because sleep is foundational to good health.
Yeah.
Now, I have many, many other boundaries for my health and then limits I have for other people. I don't allow smoking in my home because that's what a healthy home requires.
Yep.
No smoke.
Right.
So those are just really basic examples of I have this standard of health and then some limits I have to uphold, support, and promote those standards.
I love that. You make it such a simple concept to grasp. Like, I remember the first time I heard
Mhm.
about boundaries was through something that Brene Brown was doing. I'm like, I don't get it. And
Yeah.
you actually said something, that chameleon, that is the exact word that I used to describe myself when I was in corporate. I was constantly trying to fit into my environment. I remember one of my sales guys at one point, he's like, Why do you try to be one of the guys so much?" It's like, well, because I work with all men. Like, I was the engineer part of it. So it was like
Mhm.
99% men. When I started the career and
Mhm.
24 years later, it was like 97% men. And
Mhm.
so it was just easier, but it
Well, that's what
took
you told yourself, that it was just easier.
yeah, it took
That's
a
the thing.
huge toll. And yes,
Of
very
course.
important point is like, yes, I told myself it was easier, and it was a massive toll, massive stress pattern that eventually led to
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
disability. And I'm
Yeah.
curious what you think about this. Like, I'm recalling a time in the past, like in the recent past, in the last few years, where a friend was setting a boundary with me. And I'd been engaging in really off-putting behavior, actually. So I totally would like love the fact that she was as gentle and as loving as she was with the boundary. And I made me realize, and again, like, if I'm wrong on this, absolutely say so. But I realized that boundaries tell people like how they can love us. So we're saying, like,
Mhm.
we don't set boundaries with people we don't
Mhm.
want to have in our lives. We set boundaries
Mhm.
with people we love, and
Mhm.
we're like, hey, in order for me to love you up this close, this is
Mhm.
what I need to be able to do this.
Mhm.
To be the
Mhm.
best person I can be in your
Mhm.
life, I need
Mhm.
boundaries to be able to be this
Mhm.
close to you. So
Mhm.
curious about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. A couple of things occurred to me is that, like, one way that I say that is if you want the best of me, then this is how we'll operate.
Mm.
There's a quote that I've used, and I finally just recently found out it's by a guy named Prentice Hemphill. And he says, boundaries are the distance at which I can love both you and me simultaneously.
Can you say that again, please?
Boundaries are the distance at which I can love both you and me simultaneously. So
Ah,
before I had boundaries, I was loving on you while completely neglecting myself, which is what you were doing in the corporate world. And actually, the term that came up for me is corporate chameleon instead of karma chameleon. You were a
yes.
corporate chameleon. So we've just coined that term right now on your show. And what the reason you said it took a toll on you was because of your integrity. You compromised your integrity. Boundaries are about establishing or re-establishing integrity. They're about bringing yourself into alignment with yourself and living in alignment with what matters to you, like your values and that sort of thing. And so many of us, like, I always thought I was a woman of integrity, but so I learned how to build boundaries through the process of 12-step recovery
Mm.
vicariously through the 12 steps. It's not like somebody sat me down in recovery and did that, but I truly believed, Katie, when I got in recovery that I was an honest person. And I was like, oh my God, I've lied about cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, relationships. Mostly the vast majority of my lying has been in the people pleasing department,
Yeah.
acting like things were okay with me, saying yes to things I didn't really want to do, and then probably talking about you behind your back because you made me do things that I volunteered for. So I thought I was a woman of value and integrity, and I thought I was a values oriented person. No, I was not.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it. That's the scary part,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's a heavy hitter for someone who values integrity and is identifying as a person with integrity. Because, I mean, if you look at the definition of integrity, it's doing what is right even when no one's looking. Like,
Right.
that's the way
Yes.
I like to hear it referred to. And I'll catch myself sometimes, like, when I don't want to do that thing, like, wait a second, like, what is the move that's in integrity? And it's not always
Mhm.
comfortable to take that move.
No, of course not. That's why not everybody does it because I wasn't being dishonest because I'm a horrible person. I was being dishonest because I was trying to protect myself because I learned early, fucking lie.
Right?
Because
Right.
it's safer. It's really about, like, we're doing this to protect ourselves. So we develop a lot of these patterns in our childhood. I didn't know that it was because of trauma.
Mhm.
So we develop these patterns in childhood because we're trying to keep ourselves safe, because we learned I need the adults around me to be okay with me to survive.
Yep.
And I learned from them, don't tell me the truth about a lot of things.
Yes.
But then, of course, if you lie and get caught, then you get in trouble for lying.
Yes.
So it's like this double bind that you're in. So it's like, well, get really good at not getting caught lying.
Yep.
And it's for safety. So it's not that we're bad people. It's that we learned bad or unhealthy coping mechanisms. I remember saying a few years ago. So I've been in recovery for 11 years. So that's like the massive change in my life happened, 11, 10, 9 years ago. I remember saying to somebody a few years ago, like, I didn't grow up with coping mechanisms. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I did. I grew up with shitty, unhealthy, dysfunctional coping mechanisms like lie to people, people please people, be sarcastic, talk behind people's backs,
Mm-hmm.
one up people,
Yep.
humiliate people, just awful, awful things that I now know, this is intergenerational.
Mm-hmm.
Like my parents didn't set out to be like, how do we screw up our kids? They did what they knew how to do. And even though, like before recovery, intellectually, I understood my parents did the best they could.
Yep.
Now that I understand the intergenerational nature of family dysfunction, they literally did the best they could. It wasn't good enough, but I can't really hold them accountable for not being able to do something that they were not capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I get to stop the dysfunction. I get to stop the intergenerational nature of the dysfunction.
Love that. I love everything you said there. And kudos to you for 11 years in recovery. That is no
Uh,
and what you
uh,
just said in that statement, being able
uh,
to see your parents as they are, as the
uh,
imperfectly flawed, wonderful people they are.
uh, uh,
They absolutely tried their best and it wasn't
uh,
enough. And there's
uh,
forgiveness
mhm,
because you can
mhm.
see they did their
Right,
best. And like,
right.
I have really fantastic parents as well.
Well, that's so good.
Oh, I'm so lucky, and I live only 20 minutes away from them, so it's such a pleasure to be able to connect with them and to grow our relationship to the depths that we now can because I've done so much work to heal my trauma. We can connect so much more deeply, and there's levels of trust and boundaries. And I didn't learn boundaries from my parents, and I can see
Mm,
like, I love both of my parents and the way my it took me a while, but the way my dad sets boundaries is he doesn't respond.
mm,
So if he doesn't respond to something, there's something there he doesn't want to say. I've hit a boundary. That's my cue
mhm,
to say,
mhm,
okay, what do you need from me here? And then when I
mhm,
open that up, okay, this is not okay with me. This is. And then he's very
mhm,
clear, but he has to be invited because that was his
mhm.
learning. And am I going to do that with a friend who has a similar level of skills to me? No.
Right.
But because they've got a similar level of skills, it's going to be more
Mhm,
empowering for them
mhm,
communicate with me to help set the boundary. Whereas my
mhm,
dad grew up different time, different skill sets.
mhm.
He never had that same permission
Right.
to be that vocal. And so it looks
Mhm,
different, but none of that was available to me until I healed and was able
mhm,
to see them and make that same
mhm,
leap you did of like they were amazing parents. And in my parents' case,
mhm,
they didn't have a chance in hell of being able to say
mhm,
what happened to me as a kid. And much to
mhm,
your point, like with that people pleasing, it becomes even more important to please the adults around you when you've been threatened and
mhm,
silenced. And
mhm,
if you tell
mhm,
anybody, really
mhm,
bad shit is going to happen to you or your
mhm,
parent
mm,
or both.
mhm,
Like
mhm,
now it's like,
mhm.
oh my God, like my life is literally on the line. I have to
Right,
do
right.
what you want or
Yeah,
I'm dead.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
terrifying to the nervous system,
Mhm.
to the person, because the nervous system's there to keep you alive. Someone's thinking
Right.
that like, "Oh, and
Yeah.
my way out of it is that I please them." People
Mhm.
pleasing, it keeps me alive.
Right. Yeah. And you know what just occurred to me when you said that is something I did a presentation recently on internal boundaries and internal safety. And I talked about how your system chooses relief over protection.
Yes.
So, whatever I need to do to relieve this feeling of an internal emergency in my nervous system
Uh-huh.
is what I'm going to do, which is often reverting to our old dysfunctional behaviors where we focus on the other person and what do they need. rather than what do I need to do to build self-trust with myself
Mm.
and protect myself. And protect myself means becoming my own advocate, stopping abandoning myself, not caving into what other people think I should be doing. Even if they try to make me believe that I'm wrong by setting whatever limit that I'm setting, and my internal system is going haywire. Intellectually, we understand, like, I get to set this limit, but because our body's on fire, we opt for the lifelong pattern of, I need to relieve this fire going on inside.
Mhm.
And we think that, and actually, it was pleasing the people around us. That was the thing that was most protective. But the way that we build trust in ourselves and the way we start protecting our own selves is figuring out, what do I need in this moment to honor my nervous system without giving in to other people, places, and things.
Mm.
So for me, it often starts with, I put my hand on my chest and I sigh or I take a few breaths. Sometimes I'm paying attention to both the rising and falling of my chest as well as the beating of my heart, because when I'm doing both of those, I'm super focused.
Mm.
And when you're super focused, you can't pay attention to other people. You're focused internally on you. And then I often will look around me and I'll name 3 things I can see if I'm alone out loud. And then I will touch a couple of different things. So I'm engaging my senses and my body because I can only do those in the present moment.
Yep.
And when we do all that stuff, it calms the nervous system down. So we're essentially viscerally giving the message to your body, you're safe, which means your frontal lobe now comes back online and you can think clearly. This is why when we're really upset, we can't think clearly, because the frontal lobe basically gets cut off, because all that energy that's used for thinking, which is an enormous amount of energy, gets funneled to the fight or flight mechanism. And if you've been, like, it sounds like you and me, when you have childhood trauma, you've been in fight or flight mode most of your life.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like your go-to.
Mhm.
Well, the human body was not meant to be in fight or flight mode very often
No.
at all, never mind for years on end.
No.
And so it compromises so much of our beingness, and it compromises our inner knowing, because in the younger formative years, it was like, this safety mechanism is here to protect me, and it did, but it's counterproductive now that we're adults.
Yeah, 100%. Now all of that makes a ton of sense to me, and there were a couple things that came up as you were talking, and then they left again, so they must not have been that important. But yes, like, I really love how simple you break down the importance of boundaries, and
Mhm.
also, like, how you define them. Like, boundaries
Mhm.
are where I end, so I know this
Mhm.
is where I
Mhm.
am.
Mhm.
This is a fantastic place for us to wrap up part 1, and we're gonna continue this conversation in part 2. So come join us again. Thank you so much for being here with us today to listen to this, and I trust you are getting a lot out of the conversation I'm having with Barb, and I encourage you to come back again in a couple more days and catch up with part 2. We'll see you in the next episode, and until then, please be well. Thanks for being here on the Catapult Effect podcast. If today's episode supported you, share it with another leader who's ready to create more ease in how they build, and leave a review so more heart-led leaders can find these conversations. You don't have to do everything yourself. When the right systems are in place, inside and out, business gets lighter. Until next time, protect your capacity.